They thought nobody would care. Just another black teenager getting framed, another file shoved under a stack in a dusty courtroom. But what they didn't know was that this girl, Ammani, she had a brother. And her brother could make the whole damn building shake. It started like any regular Saturday in August, the kind where the heat hits your skin like a warning. 17-year-old Ammani Cross had just one thing on her mind: finals. 2 weeks left, then off to Columbia University's pre-law program, early admission, full ride. Her teachers adored her, her track coach called her a machine, and her parents, both public school librarians, couldn't stop bragging about their daughter who made it out clean. That day, all Ammani needed was a new backpack. Her old one had finally ripped across the seam, and with finals looming, she couldn't risk everything spilling onto the sidewalk. So she caught a ride to Budget Barn, a cheap strip mall in the heart of San Marita, Arizona. Loud kids ran around, a cashier yelled something about clearance prices, real classy vibes. She grabbed a plain navy bag off the shelf, stood in line, texting her best friend about which prom dress she should wear, if she could even afford one. That's when the tap came. A man in a red polo, middle-aged, his brow furrowed in a permanent scowl, his name tag reading Kyle, told her to come with him to the back office. Said someone reported her for slipping merchandise into her bag. Ammani just stared. She hadn't touched anything but that one backpack. But she followed, heart racing, face burning, the weight of 100 stares pressing into her back like judgment. In that stuffy little room, Kyle told her to empty her pockets. She did. Phone, lip balm, a scrunchie, her wallet, and the backpack still with the security tag dangling. Kyle looked almost disappointed, like he wanted her to be guilty. Then came the worst part. He said he had to call the police. Store policy, he muttered as if it excused everything. The officer showed up, young, polite, said he was just doing his job. He even apologized right before he handcuffed her and walked her out the front door like a thief. She sat in the back of the cruiser, her hands burning, her dreams cracking. That night, she cried into her pillow, her parents whispering through the door, helpless. They booked her for petty theft, gave her a court date. No one wanted to hear her side, not really. When the court date came, her lawyer, Mr. Billings, looked like he'd lost a fight with his own necktie. He told her to stay calm, that these things usually shook out. Ammani wore her best dress, the blue one her mom picked out for church ceremonies. She held a folder packed with report cards and letters from teachers like armor. But Judge Evelyn Strad, stern-faced, tight bun, cold eyes, didn't even glance her way when she walked in. No questions, no footage review. She just skimmed the report and, with the snap of her gavel, announced that the evidence supported probable cause for felony charges. Felony. Not petty theft. Not a mistake. Felony. Ammani's mouth dried, her head spun. Her parents froze behind her like ghosts. Mr. Billings said nothing. Then came the twist, the real twist. The prosecutor stood up, smiled like she'd won bingo, and announced the charges were being elevated to grand theft, citing new information. Grand theft for a $30 backpack. Ammani wanted to scream, to plead, but Judge Strad shut her down fast. $5,000 bail. Her parents could barely afford their mortgage. She sat in that hallway outside the courtroom like the air had been sucked out. Mr. Billings muttered about filing something, but he was already halfway out the door. That's when Ammani pulled out her phone and sent one word, now. She didn't even write his name. She didn't have to. Back in D.C., her brother Malik Cross, Deputy U.S. Attorney General, saw the message and didn't wait a second. Tie off, sleeves rolled, voice like thunder, he called Eva Morales, his longtime ally and assistant U.S. attorney in Phoenix. Told her to get eyes on that courtroom, dig into Judge Strad's record and keep him posted. Eva didn't ask questions. She just said, I'm on it. 20 minutes later, Eva walked into the courthouse cafeteria where Ammani sat with her parents, silent and crushed. She flashed her badge, sat down and said calmly, tell me everything. Ammani spoke. The bag, the manager, the footage no one reviewed, the silent lawyer, the smug prosecutor, the bail. Eva took notes like a machine, then stood up and said, all right. Malik's digging. I'm filing an emergency motion to force the court to review the footage. And if that doesn't work, we go bigger. Ammani stared. For the first time in days, someone saw her. Hours later, Eva returned, face tight. Strad's got history, she said. Turns out, Judge Evelyn Strad had sealed more complaints than most judges see in a decade. Rushed rulings, ignored evidence, a pattern that smelled a whole lot like bias against poor and minority defendants. That night, Malik flew to San Marita. Next morning, a black SUV pulled up outside the courthouse. Malik stepped out, not in a suit but in jeans and a blazer, sleeves rolled, eyes locked. He walked straight into the clerk's office, dropped his credentials and filed a federal motion for oversight. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried like a bomb. By noon, the media caught wind. Cameras rolled in, reporters shouted questions, court clerks slipped outside doors. And Judge Strad? She called for an emergency hearing, tried to grab the wheel before it spun away. But the courtroom didn't belong to her anymore. Malik sat in the gallery, arms crossed. Eva stood at the defense table beside Ammani. Strad tried to push through, denied motions, ignored arguments, claimed this was all political theater. Then Malik stood calmly, no permission asked. He looked her in the eye and said in clear, deliberate French, "Quand l'intégrité d'un juge est en question, rien d'autre n'est proceed." When the integrity of a judge is in question, nothing else proceeds. The room fell dead silent. Strad stiffened, her jaw clenched. She stood and walked out. That night, headlines exploded: federal probe into San Marita judge, teen framed, brother unleashes DOJ. 9 days later, Judge Strad resigned. Claimed political persecution, claimed conspiracy. But she couldn't stop what came next. Families stepped forward. Young black boys accused without cause, Latina girls stripped of scholarships over charges that vanished once reviewed. A flood of voices filled City Hall. The mayor issued a formal apology. The governor announced reforms. Ammani didn't take the mic often. She didn't want fame, she just wanted her future back. But when she did speak, she burned. She told students the truth, that you can do everything right and still be targeted, that staying silent doesn't protect you, it buries you, that one voice can shake the room. Malik stayed in Arizona longer than planned, quietly started a foundation to help teens like Ammani, set up grants, brought in defense workshops to schools, taught kids how to demand the footage, the evidence, the truth. 2 months later, Ammani boarded a plane to New York. 2 bags. One with her clothes, one with every single letter and email she'd received from strangers who said her story gave them the strength to speak. She sat by the window, eyes on the clouds, finally breathing again. But 2 days before classes started, she sat on a bench overlooking Brighton Beach, phone in hand. She called one last number. When the voice on the other end picked up, dry, cracked, she said, "Strad, it's Ammani." A long silence. Then, "You calling to gloat, Ammani?" Ammani smiled, eyes on the waves. "No," she said. "I'm calling to tell you you lost." Strad was quiet, then muttered, "You don't understand how the system works." Ammani's voice sharpened. "I understand enough. I understand that silence is how you got away with it. And I'm not staying quiet." She hung up, stood, let the cold water hit her feet. That moment wasn't just for her. It was for every kid who'd ever been overlooked, every parent who'd ever prayed, every voice that had ever been silenced. Ammani Cross walked back up the sand, stronger, louder, and finally seen. Because when justice falls asleep, sometimes it takes a sister to wake it up with fire.